The courtroom carried the stale scent of polished wood and burnt coffee. I sat at the defense table wearing my only decent suit, a charcoal gray one I'd bought for my mother's memorial a decade earlier. It still fit well enough. I'd lost weight since Marissa filed for divorce. Stress has a way of doing that. My name is Daniel Whitmore. I'm 46 years old. I live in Calverton, Georgia, roughly 20 minutes outside of Atlanta. For nearly 19 years, I was married to Marissa Whitmore, the woman seated across the aisle now, carefully avoiding my gaze. She looked confident, fresh haircut, tailored blouse, the quiet assurance of someone who knew the outcome favored her. Beside her sat her attorney, Grant Holloway, a predator in an expensive suit, flipping through documents with the ease of someone who had ended countless marriages before this one. My lawyer, a nervous young man named Lucas Moreno, someone barely within my budget, leaned in close and whispered, "Daniel, this is it. We can still push back. The company alone is valued at over $2 million. You built it from the ground up. She can't just walk away with it. If you let this go, you're giving her everything. Everything except—" He stopped short. We both knew the rest. Everything except Ava, our 16-year-old daughter, born with cystic fibrosis, the reason I get out of bed every morning, the reason I'm still here. Marissa never wanted her. She made that painfully clear in her filing. Full custody to the father, she wrote, cold and detached. As if Ava were a couch she didn't feel like moving. "I know what I'm doing," I murmured. Lucas frowned. "From where I'm standing, it looks like you're surrendering your entire life to someone who walked away from her sick child." I didn't respond. My eyes stayed fixed on the sealed envelope resting on the judge's bench. The one holding the decision that would change everything. At exactly 9 a.m., Judge Eleanor Prescott entered the room. She was in her early 60s, silver hair pulled tight, reading glasses balanced low on her nose. Known for her fairness, that reputation was the only thing giving me hope. "We are here for the final hearing in the matter of Whitmore versus Whitmore," she said as she took her seat. "I have reviewed the proposed settlement agreement. Before I approve it, I need confirmation that both parties fully understand and accept its terms." Grant Holloway rose smoothly, fastening his jacket. "Your Honor, my client, Marissa Whitmore, has agreed to receive sole ownership of Whitmore Construction LLC, the marital residence located at 218 Brookstone Lane, all liquid assets totaling approximately $847,000, and the vacation property in Hilton Head. In return, she waives all claims to future earnings and formally relinquishes full custody of the minor child. Ava Whitmore to her father." He delivered it calmly, clinically, like he was reading inventory, like my daughter was just another asset. Judge Prescott turned her attention toward me. "Mr. Whitmore, you understand and agree to these terms?" the judge asked. Lucas nudged my arm urgently. "Daniel, please, don't do this." I stood. "Yes, Your Honor, I accept the terms." A ripple of whispers moved through the small gallery. My older brother, Thomas, sat near the back beside Lucas's paralegal and a few unfamiliar faces. I caught Thomas muttering under his breath, probably calling me a fool. He'd been doing that a lot lately. Marissa was smiling. That sharp, satisfied smile she always wore when she thought she'd won. She leaned toward Grant Holloway and murmured something, no doubt already imagining how she'd spend what used to be mine. "Very well," Judge Prescott said. "Mr. Whitmore, please step forward and sign the final documents." I walked to the bench. The clerk placed a pen in my hand. One by one, I signed away everything I had spent 20 years building. The house I'd rebuilt room by room with my own hands. The company I'd grown from a rusted pickup and a toolbox into a business employing 47 people. The savings I'd scraped together dollar by dollar. Late nights, missed holidays, endless sacrifices. I signed it all away. When I finished, I glanced at Marissa. She was practically glowing. "Thank you, Daniel," she said softly. "I knew you'd do the right thing." I didn't answer. I simply returned to my seat. Judge Prescott was arranging the paperwork when she paused. "There appears to be an additional filing," she said, lifting a sealed envelope. "Mr. Whitmore, you submitted this separately, marked Exhibit H, a personal submission for judicial review only." The smile slipped from Marissa's face. "What is that?" she snapped. Judge Prescott opened the envelope and removed a thick stack of documents, nearly 20 pages, and began to read. The courtroom went silent. I watched Marissa's expression shift as the seconds stretched on. Confusion gave way to unease, then something darker as the judge continued turning pages, her face growing more severe with each one. At last, Judge Prescott looked up. "Mrs. Whitmore, is your attorney aware of these materials?" Grant Holloway stiffened. "Your Honor, I have not seen whatever that is. My client has been fully transparent." "Then perhaps you should review them now." The clerk handed copies to Grant. He read for a few seconds, then went pale. He leaned close to Marissa and whispered 4 words. "This changes everything." Marissa snatched the papers from him. She skimmed the first page, then the second, then the third, and then her legs gave out. She didn't faint exactly, just folded, sliding from her chair to the floor as the documents scattered around her. Grant shouted for water. People in the gallery stood. Lucas stared at me, mouth hanging open. I stayed seated, calm as a quiet summer morning, waiting for the chaos to settle. I'd been planning this for 2 years, and it was only just beginning. Let me tell you about Marissa. We met in 1999 at a construction site in Marietta. I was 22, working as a framing carpenter for a company that barely paid above minimum wage. She was 19, manning the front desk at a real estate office nearby, across the street. She used to bring me lemonade during her lunch breaks. It sounds insignificant, but you need to understand where I came from. I grew up poor in rural Alabama. I dropped out of high school to help my family survive, then moved to Georgia with nothing more than a duffel bag and a strong back. No one had ever taken care of me. No one had ever done something kind just because they wanted to until Marissa showed up with that lemonade. We married in 2001 at the Fulton County Courthouse. No guests, no celebration. Just the 2 of us and a judge who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I promised her that one day I'd give her the wedding she deserved. A real one. With flowers, music, a white dress, everything she'd imagined. That day never came. There was always something more urgent. Another bill. Another deadline. Another emergency that couldn't wait. Life kept pushing the dream further down the road. Ava was born in 2008. The pregnancy had been hard. When she arrived 6 weeks early, we knew immediately something wasn't right. The doctors ran tests for 3 days before sitting us down with the diagnosis: cystic fibrosis. If you're not familiar with it, here's what it means. CF is a genetic disease that affects the lungs and digestive system. It causes thick mucus to build up in the body, leading to frequent infections, breathing difficulties, and a life that requires constant medical attention. Life expectancy has improved over the years, but it's still a condition that demands relentless care, medications, therapy, hospital visits, routines that never stop. It's exhausting. It's terrifying. And it becomes a full-time job layered on top of whatever life you were already trying to hold together. Marissa struggled from the beginning. I don't say that to judge her. I think she truly tried, at least at first. But caring for a chronically ill child requires a kind of stamina not everyone has. You wake up at 3 in the morning for breathing treatments, then go to work pretending you slept. You smile while doctors deliver bad news. You hold your child while she coughs until she throws up. Then you do it all again the next day. Marissa couldn't do that. By the time Ava turned 5, she had checked out. Not physically, at least not right away. She was still in the house, still going through the motions, but emotionally she was gone. She stopped attending doctor visits, stopped helping with therapy, stopped, as far as I could tell, being present as a mother. So I stepped in. What choice did I have? Ava needed someone, and I was still there. At the same time, Whitmore Construction was finally gaining momentum. The company I'd started in 2005 with a used pickup and a stack of business cards printed at a copy shop was turning into something real. Commercial projects, residential developments, government contracts. By 2015, we had 40 employees and annual revenue north of $3 million. I was proud of what I'd built, but I was also worn down to the bone. Running a growing business while being the primary caregiver for a sick child doesn't leave much room for anything else, especially a marriage. Marissa and I drifted apart. Conversations turned into checklists. Who was picking Ava up? When the next payment was due? Whether we'd remembered to buy milk? I should have seen the affair coming. His name was Tyler Maddox, a commercial real estate developer who hired Whitmore Construction for a strip mall project in Alpharetta. He was polished and confident, the kind of man who wore expensive watches and drove cars that cost more than most people's homes. And he noticed her. Marissa met him at a company function in 2020. By the following year, they were sleeping together. I discovered the affair the way most husbands do, by accident. A phone left unlocked. Messages never meant for my eyes. I love you. Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you already. Last night was incredible. When are you going to leave him? I want you to myself. I read every single one. Hundreds of messages stretched across months. An entire betrayal carefully preserved in text form. My first instinct was to confront her immediately, to shout, to break something, to demand answers. But something stopped me. Ava, if I blew up the marriage right then, what would happen to our daughter? Marissa had already shown she couldn't be relied on. A messy divorce would mean custody battles, legal fees, and our finances ripped apart while Ava's medical bills kept piling up. It would destroy everything I'd spent my life building to protect her. So instead of reacting, I did something that surprised even me. I started planning. The first step was hiring a private investigator. His name was Calvin Ross, a former Atlanta police detective who now handled domestic cases. He was expensive but meticulous. I told him I wanted everything. Every meeting, every hotel stay, every lie. Over the next 18 months, Calvin delivered. Photos of Marissa and Tyler at restaurants, hotels, even his beach house in Savannah, financial records detailing gifts he'd bought her, trips they'd taken together. Proof of a second life, lavish, secret, and funded by someone else's money. But that wasn't the most important thing he uncovered. Daniel, Calvin said during one of our meetings, sliding a folder across the table. You need to look at this. Inside were bank statements, not from our joint accounts, which I monitored closely, but from accounts I had never seen before. Accounts opened in Marissa's name alone. Over the past 3 years, she had been quietly siphoning money from Whitmore Construction. At first, the withdrawals were small, just a few $100s at a time. Easy to hide in the chaos of a growing business, but they escalated. By the time Calvin found it, she had taken more than $340,000. She's been embezzling from your company, he said, funneling it into accounts she thinks you don't know about. I stared at the numbers. $340,000. Money earned through years of long nights, physical labor, and sacrifice gone. There's more, Calvin continued. She and Tyler have been discussing starting their own property development firm. Want to guess where the startup capital is coming from? My money, I said quietly. Your money. I sat with that truth for a long time. In a typical divorce, this evidence would have been devastating. Proof of infidelity. Proof of theft. Enough to bury her in court and walk away with everything. But I wasn't looking for revenge. I had a different strategy. Georgia is an equitable distribution state. That means assets aren't divided evenly, only fairly. Judges consider many factors. The length of the marriage, each spouse's contribution, financial misconduct, and most importantly, the best interests of the child. And suddenly the path forward became very clear. Contributions, future earning capacity, and misconduct. Misconduct. That was the word that mattered. If Marissa filed for divorce, believing she could take everything and walk away, untouched, she'd get careless. She'd push too far. She'd make mistakes. And if I gave her exactly what she demanded, if I let her think victory was guaranteed, I could use those mistakes to take it all back, plus interest. For 6 months, I worked with a forensic accountant, documenting every dollar Marissa had taken. We traced the money through shell accounts, through Tyler's businesses, through a web of transactions designed to disguise theft. When the picture was complete, I took it to the Fulton County District Attorney's office. The prosecutor's name was Nadine Wells. She specialized in financial crimes. When she reviewed the evidence, her eyes lit up. Mr. Whitmore, she said, this is textbook embezzlement. Combined with the affair, we could build a case that puts your wife behind bars. I don't want her in prison, I said. Not yet. Nadine studied me. Then what do you want? Timing, I replied. I want her to file first. I want her to believe she's winning. And at the exact right moment, I want everything to collapse. She frowned. That's unconventional. My daughter has cystic fibrosis, I said evenly. Her mother is walking away to be with a wealthy boyfriend. Conventional stopped being an option a long time ago. Nadine looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Tell me what you need. We spent the next year building the case, every document. Every witness, every transaction. Charges were drafted, ready to be filed, but held back until I gave the word. In the meantime, I started moving assets, not hiding them. That would have been illegal, and I wasn't about to hand Marissa any leverage. Instead, I restructured. I created protected trusts for Ava's medical care that couldn't be touched in a divorce. I transferred certain properties into business entities Marissa didn't know existed. Every step was documented, legal, and defensible. Then I waited. Marissa filed for divorce in January. She came home one evening, sat across from me at the kitchen table and said, "I want out. I'm not happy, Daniel. I haven't been for years." "I know," I said. She blinked. "You know?" "I know about Tyler," I continued. "I know about all of it." Fear crossed her face just for a second. Then it hardened into calculation. "Fine," she said. "Then you understand why this is over. I want the house, the company, the savings. You can have Ava. I know how much she means to you." She said it like she was being generous, like giving me custody of our sick child was a favor. "Okay," I said. Just like that. She stared at me, waiting for the catch. There had to be one. The man who fought for everything wasn't supposed to fold so easily. "I'll have my attorney send the paperwork," she finally said. "I'll sign," I replied. And I did. Every single page. Because by then the trap was already set. All I had to do was let her walk into it. Now back in the courtroom, chaos reigned. Marissa was on the floor hyperventilating. Grant Holloway tried to help her up while skimming the documents, his face growing paler with every page. Judge Prescott banged her gavel, demanding order. I stayed seated, calm, patient. Lucas grabbed my arm. "Daniel, what the hell is in those papers?" "The truth," I said. Eventually, they got Marissa back into her chair. Someone brought her water. Mascara streaked her cheeks. She looked nothing like the confident woman who had walked in an hour earlier. Judge Prescott finally restored order. "Mr. Holloway, I take it you were not aware of the contents of Exhibit H." Grant wiped his brow. "No, Your Honor, my client did not disclose this information." "I can see that," the judge said, then turned to me. "Mr. Whitmore, would you care to explain to the court what these documents contain?" I rose slowly. "Your Honor," I said, "Exhibit H contains 3 years of financial records, documenting systematic embezzlement from Whitmore Construction LLC by my wife, Marissa Whitmore." I paused. "The total amount stolen is $347,218. The money was funneled into concealed accounts and used to finance an ongoing relationship with Tyler Maddox, a real estate developer with whom she has been involved since 2021. Marissa let out a broken sound, something raw and animal. The exhibit also includes photographs, text messages, and sworn witness statements confirming the affair, I continued. In addition, there is a formal notice from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office indicating that criminal charges for embezzlement, wire fraud, and tax evasion are prepared and pending contingent on the resolution of these proceedings. Grant Holloway shot to his feet. "Your Honor, this is ambush litigation. We were given no opportunity to review these allegations. My client has rights." "Your client has been stealing from me for 3 years," I said quietly. "She can discuss her rights with the prosecutor." Judge Prescott raised her hand sharply. "Both of you, sit down." She turned toward Marissa. "Mrs. Whitmore, do you have anything you'd like to say in response to these allegations?" Marissa was crying openly now. "He's lying," she sobbed. "He has to be. I never—" "These are bank records," Judge Prescott said calmly. "Transaction histories. Do you deny that these accounts exist?" Silence. "Do you deny transferring funds from Whitmore Construction into these accounts without your husband's knowledge or consent?" More silence. Judge Prescott nodded slowly. "I see." She removed her reading glasses and placed them carefully on the bench. Then she looked at me. "Mr. Whitmore, help me understand something. You knew about the embezzlement. You knew about the affair, and yet you willingly signed over nearly all marital assets to your wife. Why?" I took a breath. "Because I wanted her to show the court who she really is, Your Honor." "Explain." "My wife abandoned our daughter," I said. "Ava has cystic fibrosis. She requires constant care, expensive medication, frequent hospital stays, daily therapy. When Marissa filed for divorce, she explicitly requested that I take full custody. She didn't want her own child." My voice tightened, but I kept going. "I could have fought her. I could have dragged this case out for years. But Ava doesn't have years to waste. She needs stability. She needs to know that at least one parent will always choose her. Judge Prescott studied me. So you let your wife take everything? I let her think she was taking everything. I gestured slightly. The assets she claimed, the house, the company. The accounts are all compromised now. The business was funded with stolen money. The accounts contain embezzled funds. The house was purchased using commingled assets that are now evidence in a criminal case. I looked at Marissa. She stared back at me with pure hatred. Everything she took, I said evenly. She'll be required to return. And then some. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Prescott sat still for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, she smiled. Mr. Whitmore, she said, are you telling this court that you deliberately structured this divorce so your wife would incriminate herself? I'm telling the court that I gave my wife exactly what she asked for. I replied. It's not my fault she asked for proof of her own crimes. Grant Holloway leapt to his feet again. Your Honor, this is entrapment. Judge Prescott's gavel came down hard. This is a father protecting his child. Mr. Holloway, Judge Prescott said, her voice cold as steel. Your client chose to steal. Your client chose to engage in an affair. Your client chose to abandon a chronically ill child, Mr. Whitmore. Simply chose not to stop her. She lifted her gavel. I am vacating the settlement agreement in its entirety. In light of the evidence of fraud and embezzlement, I am ordering a full forensic audit of all marital assets. Any property derived from criminal activity will be subject to forfeiture. She paused, then added, furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for immediate prosecution. Judge Prescott turned her gaze to Marissa. Mrs. Whitmore, I strongly advise you to retain a criminal defense attorney. You are going to need one. The gavel struck. Marissa screamed. Not a cry, an unfiltered sound of rage and despair that echoed through the courtroom. You bastard, she shouted. You planned this. You destroyed me. I stood calmly gathering my documents. No, Marissa, I said evenly. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone could see it. I walked out without looking back. In the hallway, my brother Thomas was waiting. He shook his head slowly. I take it back, he said. You're not an idiot. You're the smartest son of a bitch I know. I met his eyes. I'm not smart, Tom, I'm just a father. I pulled out my phone and dialed Ava. She answered on the second ring. She was home with her nurse waiting. Dad, what happened? Pack a bag, sweetheart, I said. We're getting ice cream. I'll explain everything when I get there. There was a pause. Did we win? I thought about that. About what winning actually meant. Yeah, baby, I said softly. We won. The criminal case took 8 months. Marissa hired a new attorney. Grant Holloway dropped her immediately. After the divorce hearing, her defense tried everything. She claimed coercion, claimed she didn't understand the transactions, claimed the money was owed to her as compensation for years as a homemaker. None of it held. The evidence was airtight. Forensic accountants traced every dollar. Prosecutors documented every lie. In the end, Marissa pleaded guilty to 3 counts of embezzlement and 1 count of wire fraud. She was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 2. Tyler Maddox vanished the moment charges were filed. It turned out he'd known about the theft and had helped structure several of the transactions. When subpoenas started circulating, he liquidated his local assets and fled to Costa Rica. Last I heard, he was developing beachfront condos and pretending none of it ever happened. Marissa sent me a letter about 6 months into her sentence. I didn't open it right away. When I finally did, it was shorter than I expected. Danielle, I know you won't forgive me. I'm not sure I would forgive me either. But I need you to know that I'm sorry, not for getting caught, but for everything. For Ava, for us, for all of it. I was weak. I was selfish. I convinced myself I deserved more, and I used that lie to justify everything I did. Please tell Ava I love her. I folded the letter and set it aside. Ava is 17 now. Her treatments are steady. Her laugh still fills the house. Whitmore Construction survived the audit, rebuilt stronger, cleaner. Every dollar that mattered went where? It was always supposed to go toward protecting my daughter. People sometimes ask me if I regret how I handled things. I don't. Because in the end, this wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure my daughter grew up knowing that when everything was on the line, her father chose her. Every time. Even if she doesn't believe it. Even if you don't believe it, I do. I showed Ava the letter. She read it twice, then handed it back to me. Do you think she means it? I don't know, sweetheart, I said honestly. Maybe. She hesitated. Do you forgive her? I thought about that for a long time. I'm working on it. Ava nodded. Me too. That's the thing about forgiveness, it doesn't arrive all at once. It isn't a switch you flip where everything suddenly feels right again. It's more like a sunrise, slow, uneven. Some days the clouds roll back in and you can't see the light at all. But you keep waiting, and eventually the sun rises again. The assets were sorted out in the end. After the forensic audit, the legal fees, and the restitution payments, I walked away with roughly 60% of what we'd had before the divorce. The house was sold, the company restructured, the vacation property liquidated. It was less than I started with, but more than I needed. I used part of the money to clear Ava's medical bills. The rest went into a trust that will care for her for the rest of her life. However long that turns out to be, medicine has come a long way. When Ava was born, the average life expectancy for someone with cystic fibrosis was around 35. Now it's closer to 50 and still rising. New treatments, new medications, new reasons to hope. She's 18 now. Just graduated high school. This fall she's starting community college, studying art therapy. She wants to work with sick kids, help them express what they're feeling through paint and pencil. I know what it's like to be scared, she told me when she shared her plans. I want other kids to feel less alone. I cried, I couldn't help it. This kid, this incredible human who has spent her entire life fighting just to breathe, wants to spend her future helping others fight too. If that isn't proof that something good can come from something terrible, I don't know what is. Marissa was released from prison last spring. She's living in a halfway house in Macon, working at a grocery store, trying to piece together a new version of her life. She asked if she could see Ava. I left that decision up to my daughter. Ava said yes. They've met twice now. Coffee shops, short visits, careful conversations. I don't know if they'll ever have a real relationship. Too much damage has been done, but they're trying. And sometimes trying is enough. I sold Whitmore Construction last year. A larger firm made an offer, and after thinking it over, I accepted. The business had given me everything, but it had also taken everything. Every late night, every missed moment, every sacrifice that once felt necessary but now felt stolen. I wanted those moments back. Not the ones already gone, you can't reclaim those, but the ones still ahead. So I took the money, and I walked away. I'm not retired, not exactly. I still consult now and then, help smaller contractors get their footing. But mostly I spend my time with Ava, and that's the best investment I've ever made. Driving her to appointments, helping her with her art projects, just being there, present, available the way I always wanted to be but couldn't manage while building an empire. It's enough. More than enough. People sometimes ask if I regret how I handled everything, the trap, the patience, the 2 years of watching Marissa steal from me while I documented every move, waiting for the right moment. Couldn't I have just divorced her like anyone else? Confronted her, fought it out in court, moved on with my life? Maybe. But here's what I've learned about justice. It doesn't always look the way you expect. Sometimes justice is a judge slamming a gavel and sending someone to prison. Sometimes it's quieter than that. Sometimes it's a sick kid graduating high school while the parent who abandoned her watches from a halfway house. Sometimes justice is just surviving. I spent 18 years married to a woman who slowly revealed herself to be someone I didn't recognize. Selfish, calculating, capable of abandoning her own child to chase a fantasy with a man who left the moment things got hard. I could be angry about that. Part of me probably always will be. But anger is heavy. It takes up space you need for other things. What I carry instead is gratitude. Gratitude for Ava, who has taught me what love really means. Gratitude for the years of struggle that showed me what I'm capable of. Grateful even for Marissa in a strange way, because without her betrayal, I might never have discovered how strong I actually am. The day after the final divorce hearing, I took Ava for ice cream like I promised. We sat in a booth at a little shop near our house, her eating mint chocolate chip, me working on a butter pecan. Dad, she said between bites, are you okay? I mean, really okay. I think so, sweetheart, I said. Getting there. Anyway, Mom really did all those things, the stealing and everything. Yeah, she did. Why? I mean, we had a good life, didn't we? I thought carefully before answering. How do you explain to a teenager that some people are never satisfied, that some people spend their whole lives chasing something better and never realize what they already have is enough? Your mom got lost, I said finally. She forgot what mattered, and by the time she remembered, it was too late. Do you think she ever loved us? I think she loved us the best way she knew how, I said. It just wasn't enough. Ava was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. Your love was enough, Dad, just so you know. It was always enough. I couldn't speak. I just held her hand and let the tears fall into my butter pecan. That's the thing about being a parent. You spend years worrying that you're failing, that you're not doing enough, that your kids will grow up carrying the weight of your mistakes. And then one day, they say something that lets you know you've already done more than enough. I know I got it right. Maybe not all of it, maybe not perfectly, but enough. I keep a photograph on my desk now. It's from Ava's graduation. She's in her cap and gown, holding her diploma, smiling so wide it looks like her face might split. I'm standing next to her, arm around her shoulder, looking like a man who has finally figured out what matters. In the corner of the frame, barely visible, is an empty chair, the one we saved for Marissa, just in case she got permission to attend. She didn't come. Paperwork, approval, something that never went through in time. Ava cried for about 10 minutes. Then she wiped her eyes, put on her gown, and walked across that stage like she owned it. That's my girl. I look at that photograph every morning. It reminds me of something important. Life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you build, what you fight for, what you refuse to let go of even when everything is trying to tear it away. Marissa thought she could take everything from me. She thought I would crumble, become just another sad story of a man broken in a divorce. She was wrong. She forgot the most important thing, Ava, and a father protecting his daughter. That's the most dangerous force in the world. So here's my question for you. What would you refuse to give up? What would you fight for, sacrifice for, even burn everything down for if you had to? And if you don't have something like that in your life yet, maybe it's time to find it. Share this story with someone who's in the middle of a fight, someone who feels like they're losing everything, because sometimes the people who look like they're losing are actually setting themselves up for the biggest win of their lives. You just have to be patient enough to see it.